the mighty roads of the Empire. Whilst the rivers might be a little safer, the roads are certainly sometimes a faster mode of travel. Of course, this must be done by coach or by horse, for no one can be truly safe by foot after all. Any sort of bandit or beast could follow you as you pass the great woods of the Reichwald, and that is if you are lucky. For there are worse horrors in the dark than mere men and beasts. This is Red Moon Role-Playing. The rain has begun to fall quite heavily on the Imperial Road leading to the city of Altdorf. The scene our three heroes find themselves in is a little bit alarming. A wagon tossed aside on the road, seemingly attacked by someone or something. Most people seeming dead, a poor guardsman, the coachman driving said carriage, and one of the horses, although you know at least one of the other horses is safe. Far more alarming, though, is a figure that has just emerged from the wagon. They are currently on top of the wagon, facing one of our brave heroes. Heinrich, this individual is rather unsettling. They do, after all, seem to be a man, but also some sort of monster. But far more unsettling is the fact that they are wearing something very familiar to you, and they sound like someone you once knew. Rolf Hurtis, old Rolf. You didn't know him very well, of course, you were just a child, but you remember that bandana he used to wear? He often would help your father on some of the river routes. He was a funny man, he always liked to make jokes. He didn't look like this before. What do you do as you face this individual on this wagon?
It can't actually be Rolf. I mean, my father said that he'd drowned, not gone missing, and certainly not this. But despite that, family in the river, I can't bring myself to lunge at him. I have to know more. My weapon lowers slightly. I'm too suspicious to totally let my guard down, but I think the last thing that comes from my mouth is, what happened to you?
Yeah, He's mine. He's mine. You see, in the hand he isn't holding his dagger, which up this close you now see is smeared with blood. It's some sort of bag, containing something you're sure of. Possibly what was ever inside the coach. This is mine. Heinrich, I need it. I need it. It's mine. Stay back. Stay back. I need you. Your friends. Stay back.
This what? You need gold? You need trinkets? Who were these people?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter anymore. Not anymore. Heinrich, I can. He starts growling, and as he does so, it's almost like his throat begins to enlarge, like a frog's. It's very disturbing.
Well, friend or not, I would say that even in my provincial upbringing, I've heard tale of what happens when chaos or other foul magic gets into human blood, right?
You certainly have. You wouldn't know much about it, but everyone knows that if you start looking a little strange, that might mean you are a mutant. And mutants, sadly, are not treated very well in the Empire. In fact, most of the time, especially if a witch hunter hears about them, they are going to be burned at a stake.
Well, I'm not going to let a witch hunter hear that I let a mutant go, so even as he becomes increasingly agitated, now my sword is raised again. You know just as well as I do that what you've done here is wrong, and the old Rolf would have known that no one should be able to get away with this, and I'll make a more aggressive motion with my rapier.
Kruger, you can see this all happening. You were getting your bow ready. You weren't expecting, though, this man, Heinrich, to start speaking to this monster, this person. You can't quite tell. It's very confusing what they seem to be. What do you do?
I have my bow out already, and I've knocked an arrow, and I'm aiming at this creature, and I am basically preparing to release the arrow as soon as that thing moves on Heinrich, because It looks really wrong. It doesn't look like something that should be allowed to live. But I don't want to move too fast here. If he's talking to him, well, perhaps there's something to be learned. So I just keep aiming my bow on the creature, and I'm ready to release at first sign of trouble.
Well, that will certainly be beneficial for you. What about you, Siegfrieda? You were just about to get closer to the dead body, but now there's a very live individual on top of this wagon, and even from this distance you can see there is something about their throat and their mouth. What is this?
It's fascinating, but it's also incredibly dangerous. Going into the unknown like this, I am not a combatant. And the first thing I'm going to say is this a friend of yours, Heinrich? You know this specimen?
I know what he was. Not what he is now.
Well, he's looking dangerous. So, duelist, do your thing.
I am dangerous. I am dangerous. Leave me be. Leave me be and I'll go. Leave me be and I'll go. Leave me be.
We both know that's not how this works. And I'm mustering whatever resolve I can out of history, that even if it's your friend, even if it's a family member, when these kind of things take root, it's never good. You can't show mercy. The tales are full of folks who you thought were missing and come to the door, and then terrible things happen to the family. So if he makes to leave, I can't let that happen.
The question then is, do you attack?
Can I try to intimidate him into telling me what's actually going on, what happened?
Why don't you roll and let's see.
I have rolled a 6 under 37 for 3 success levels.
I will put it to you like this. You definitely are going to intimidate him, whatever you do. But the question is, how he will respond to that. It's difficult to ask questions in an intimidating manner in this particular scenario, because of course he can just run away from you in fear. But ask your question, let's see how he responds.
Rolf, if you are Rolf, you know where I went and you know what I've trained to do. I don't want to hurt you, and even worse, I don't want to have to put you down. But if you can't tell me what you're doing here, what happened to you?
I don't know. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything, Heinrich, but I need to live. I need to live.
It's tragic and it's painful, but you give people an opportunity, and then what else is there? I'm not going to let mutants run about. There's a noble just behind. God knows what happened. So with honest to God sadness in my voice, I'll say, well, that's not going to happen today, Rolf. And I will launch into an attack with my rapier.
I'm going to shout some words of advice and encouragement. Try and take him down at the knees. It's better if he's kept alive.
Well, Siegfrieda, if you want, you can roll leadership to try and convince him to do well in the fight. But if you want him just to hold his blade back a little, you don't really need to roll for that. Will you do that, Heinrich? It is within your power, you think, to take this man down without killing him necessarily.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think we might have a slightly different understanding of why we want him alive, but that's a bit above the table, so for now, I'll take Siegfrieda at her word.
In that case, being a skilled duelist, using a rapier means that already you are able to attack quite speedily. We aren't entering initiative here, so it's not too vital, but I will say you are able to strike fast, and this individual will try and defend himself, but he'll only be able to try and defend himself, and he will be doing it at a difficulty of -10, as your attack is very difficult to stop. So, roll your attack, and I will be opposing you with his dodge.
Well, I have some bad news for, I think, Rolf and Siegfrieda, because I have rolled a 20 under 51, which on a rapier is also a critical hit.
So, with a critical roll, you can, of course, choose to simply take this guy out without killing him, which is what's going to happen. You tell us in your own words how you take down this foe non-lethally.
It's normally a maneuver that's meant for dealing with armored opponents, where you draw back, you get them to open their guard a little bit, and then you drive the rapier down. And the idea in a normal fight would be to pierce on the kneecap of the armor, and then down into it to disable your opponent. An unarmored opponent makes this much easier. I would drive the rapier down with an impaling strike into the top of his knee, probably the right side, severing everything in there, rendering one limb just completely unusable for running, scampering, that kind of thing.
And that happens. Rolf tries to defend against your sudden lunge, but you are far more skilled than this individual. And with a look of surprise and a roar of pain, they go down, as you describe. What do you do next? This being is now prone on top of the wagon.
Oh, very well done, Heinrich.
Despite Siegfrieda's accolades, I'm swallowing back that wet feeling in my mouth because he's enough still of Rolf to remind me of that. I'm going to turn away from him, speaking over to the other two. This is where you come in, I think. But I've already turned away to the back of the wagon, just for one, to hide my face, and second, in case something comes up.
Don't worry, I can bind his wounds to ensure he doesn't expire immediately.
I breathe out a sigh of relief and lower my bow as I see that this is taken care of.
It would be easier, I suppose, to just kick his body down into the dirt, but I can't bring myself to do that.
Oh, no, I can see your indecision. Just leave him up there, just make sure that you keep your blade trained on him. I don't want to have my throat bitten out while I'm applying bandages and poultices.
I don't think Rolf's going to bite anyone's throat out, is he?
There is no response. You have managed to incapacitate this fellow. He seems to have lost consciousness.
Okay, well, if I'm not under any time pressure, I will apply basic, stitches and bandages to the wounds, just so that there's no heavy bleeding going on. And then we can lift the body down and make a decision while carrying him. Are we going to take him back with us on the coach? It's not going to wait for us over long.
I'm not sure how our guests or our drivers will take it, but in either case, and I'll cock my head to Kruger, I imagine there's still some searching you'd like to do.
Oh, most definitely. I say as I climb up on the coach, and I want to see what's inside.
On the topic of inside, before Kruger gets his grubby hands on everything, can I have the bag that Rolf was holding?
Certainly. You grab the bag, look inside. Let's see. A couple of rations, a bit of salt beef, a bit of bread. What else? 4 or 5 silvers. There's also a bit of paper, currently blank, and it looks like a little ink kit as well.
He said he needed it to live, and it turns out that... Well, I'll just tuck that onto my belt. If it comes to splitting loot later, we'll see what happens. I imagine that Kruger can find his own treasures inside. I will assist Siegfrieda in transporting our friend here, but I would ask her, the coachman, are you sure they'll be okay with a new passenger?
Absolutely not. That's why I'm... Before we round the corner, the stack of rocks and the trees that led us here, while holding Rolf between us, the way I see it, we have 2 choices. I mean, we can either... Well, maybe let's expand it to 3. We can ask that they transport him as probably a criminal of the Empire. I mean, look at him. To be judged in Altdorf. I mean, there may even be a bounty that might appeal to them. Or we can insist that they do and take up the cause of lawfulness and right and so on. If we make enough noise about it, And then, especially if we claim that they refuse to do so, if they refuse to do so, I imagine we'll be able to get him aboard. Problem is, for your friend, if we follow that course, he will almost certainly hang or lose his head on the block. And I don't think that's in any of our interests. Best thing, in my view, is you run ahead to the coach, say, we're just interring the bodies, the ones we found, giving them a proper burial, and then we'll be hopping back on the coach. It won't take us more than another few minutes. We've already started.
I would say this, you would know this. You won't be burying these bodies on the road. It's highly disrespectful. They need to be taken back to a town and probably buried by a priest of Moor.
Oh, I know, but faith and belief is really... Yes, well, regardless, doing something, making sure that the road is safe. But while you're doing that, maybe I can get some answers out of your friend, find out whether there's more like him, find out how he came to be this way, and then once I'm satisfied, we leave him with loose bonds that he may be able to escape at some point, and we just ride on, leaving him here. It's your responsibility, from my view. I mean, I hate to divest myself of all of that kind of bureaucracy, but ultimately, you know this person, and therefore, I think you're the closest thing to next of kin.
I knew him. I'm not sure about now, but all the same, I'd prefer not to spill any blood that doesn't need spilled. We've accomplished what we've wanted. I don't think this is knowledge that I would have. Is the carriage salvageable?
It is, although it's going to require a lot of help. Ideally, a whole bunch of horses, ropes, that sort of thing.
I wonder I would ask to Kruger, because he seems like he has more experience in stopping coaches. What do you think it would take to get that back upright and on the road?
Oh, you'd need a team, good few strong men, and some horses, rope. It can be done. It'll take some time, but I try to look at the coach to evaluate whether or not, like, would it be worth salvaging, or is it destroyed to such a state that it's better to just leave it here, basically?
It definitely would be worth salvaging, but the problem is the manpower. It would have to be all three of you, at least the coachman, and a couple more people, and you don't really think the noble lady is going to be assisting you in this. You also don't know how much rope the other wagon has. It's going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, I'm more thinking about whether or not we could report it to the coachman, and we could report it when we reach our destination, and someone else could come and salvage this later on. It might make sense to take note of where all this happened.
That would be very logical, yes, of course. In fact, there might be road wardens coming any moment now, you never know. They are supposed to patrol the roads.
That is true.
My other thought would be that there's money to be made in coaches, and if you'd like a more wholesome reason, it would give us somewhere to put the bodies, taking them into town that is not on the roof with us. But that is a question that relies upon the outcome of the coachman, so I'll propose this. I will take Sigfrida up on her advice. I will go parley with the coachman, see if they cannot be persuaded to lend us their manpower or their horsepower, as it were, to clear the road. Failing that, we'll deal with that after the fact, but regardless, that should give Kruger time to conduct his, I'll call it an inspection, and then Sigfrida a chance to politely and without undue pain get answers out of what used to be a friend of mine.
Yes, I'll do it in a secure area so that anyone helping from the main coach won't see what's going on. Try and find a copse or a rocky outcropping that we can hide behind.
Let us do it in this order. Sigfrida first. You, for the moment, I'm assuming you attempt to bind this individual in some way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I already have dressings and bandages, so it shouldn't take that much.
That's true. I don't think you need to roll for that to just make a makeshift little bit of binding, so at least his arms are behind his back, and that dagger is... Well, what do you do with the dagger? Do you take it with you? Do you just throw it to the side of the road? It doesn't look valuable at all, it's just a dagger. I mean, it might sell...
I'll slip it in my pack. No point wasting good tools.
Certainly. It's a little bit bloody, but the rain is already beginning to wash it off.
Now, that's the good thing about fresh blood. It cleans easier than dried.
That is true. You head to the side of the road for a moment, prop this thing up. What do you do? He is currently unconscious still, breathing in a very strange manner, his throat like a frog's, just bulging in and out, in and out.
That's the anatomy that I am most interested in. He appears to be going through some kind of a mammalian transformation into some kind of canine-like creature. But then there's this amphibious throat appendage, a strange growth. It's like his... I'm just a physician's apprentice. I'm no expert on... especially on the transformation of bodies when exposed to chaotic elements. But it doesn't stop it from being absolutely fascinating to study. Ultimately, the best thing I can do to reach a diagnosis and discover how he came to be the way he is to wake him up. So, as I've got plenty of herbs, I would like to put some particularly strong-smelling ones underneath his snout and see whether we can bring him back to consciousness.
He comes to with a start and begins to thrash about. Luckily, your bindings and, of course, his injury, which you've stabilised but still means he can't really walk or even run, means he just flails about a little ineffectually. What?
You need to keep your voice down. There are people around here that will kill you if they hear you. I'm here to help. My name is Siegfrieda. I'm a physician's apprentice. I can hopefully help you with your current condition. Can you understand what I'm saying, first of all? I mean, you don't... Yes? Wonderful.
Yes.
Do you mind if I take notes?
I did it.
Okay, lovely. So, what I want to know is... well, I suppose the obvious answer is... obvious question, I should say, is... How did you come to be in this physical state?
I rash on the neck. Itchy rash.
You developed a rash after nicking yourself on something?
No, minding. We're in my boat. With reeds.
You were in your boat and there were reeds.
Yeah.
Well, that's fairly typical for rivers in these parts. And how does that play into your current condition?
Scratch, skin, and then the thing, and he kind of tries to gesture but can't because he's bound, but kind of tries to show you more of his neck. And again, if you were to look closer, you would see it does seem to be like scales, green scales.
Yes, it does appear that you are undergoing some kind of transformation into a river creature, although you've also developed fur in a strange way. Is this something you consumed? Did something attack you?
No, I did nothing.
You just travelled down the river and ended up this way?
Yes, and then it's worse. And then the big Liddy, she saw, she screamed. I had to run, and then I got hungry.
And this Lily, where is she now?
I don't know. Don't remember.
Is she undergoing the same transformation?
Don't know.
It's fine. You remain calm. These are wonderful notes. I have to say. Now. What I mean by that, of course, isn't wonderful news. It's just information like this can help the Guild of Physicians no end.
At this point, would you like to roll law medicine? Please do.
I roll a 12 against a rating of 58.
That is many success levels. Siegfrieda, you have never, of course, come across this personally, but you are beginning to see things that only make sense if what you've heard is true. These are mutations. Obviously, you literally start checking, and it's not like he's naturally like this. Like, you can see the scales almost half stop and then begin to become skin again. You can see his eye, one human, one reptilian, but reptilian in the way of a lizard as opposed to a frog, and yet that throat and that mouth as well, you can see it's almost like his lower skull, the lower jaw, has begun to change. This is mutation. Mutation is something you've heard of very briefly, and only in a few ways. You know that many of your brothers and sisters would be very interested in studying it. The problem is, beyond a certain theoretical level, it becomes considered heresy, at least according to the Church of Sigma. They say all mutation is a sign of weakness, all mutation is a sign of the great enemy, and all who suffer from mutation must be burned at the stake. This is the fate of many mutants. You have heard rumors from some of the people you were studying with that they say sometimes maybe some nobles have actually been mutants, and they go to a surgeon and it gets removed and they're fine. All completely theoretical, of course. But you do know that majority of the time, especially in a village, someone like this will be exiled at best or reported to the witch hunters at worst.
Yeah, so I think any way you cut it, this Rolf is destined for a poor fate. I'm nowhere near skilled enough to treat this kind of condition. I'm not actually voicing this to him. I'm still making... Well, I'm trying to sound as sympathetic as I can. It's not really within my nature. Bedside manner is not something I've developed yet in terms of advancements. I look at him with sad eyes. I gesture at his throat. I gesture at the fur, his teeth, his nose. I make it clear that I'm pointing at each of these, and I say, Rolf, isn't it? You are aware of what you are going through right now.
I'm fine! It's fine! I just...
No, Rolf. You know what happens to those who go through these kinds of transformations. And believe me, I do feel for you. I don't judge you for that, because I am sure that it is no result of your actions or inactions that you've ended up this way. It's just the gods can be capricious and cruel, and nature can be likewise. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to fate, your fate, I think the end is looking grim. Now, you have a choice, and I always give people a choice. I can cut you free and let you go. Have you swear an oath on your children, your family, and the gods, and whoever else, that you will just keep running in the opposite direction of our road and hope that we never meet again, lest you be cursed even further than you already are. Or, as a physician, apprentice, I can end your life in a way that will be painless. You can close your eyes, you can think of something that puts your mind at ease, and you will not have to fear the flames of the witch-finders, the persecution that will inevitably dog the rest of your life.
His eyes flick to the road, the road, one still human, one reptilian. He seems to be considering something. He mutters under his breath, the others are gone now, but I could catch up. There were others. We were the same. We could survive. We were the same.
So there is a pack of individuals like yourself.
He tries to look back to the wagon itself, and says, Mikhail, he's right beneath the wagon, he's dead. But The others, maybe. But long gone. I could catch up.
And that's the decision you wish to make.
Roll intuition, please.
That's a 98.
On that, you're a little concerned because you've offered this being, you've offered him something quite merciful, and then he's kind of said he wants to go and join his friends. Aren't his friends the ones who hit the wagon? You don't think you can let this guy go?
No, and it's... by no means is Siegfrieda a philosophical champion. She's far too young, she's experienced too little. She may act like she knows everything, but she doesn't. And she always exists by a certain kind of duality, where she does like to provide test subject choices. She likes to always consider the pros and cons of every situation. It makes her quite methodical. She's rarely impulsive. And so it always satisfies her sense of mercy and guilt when she gives something a choice and it opts for death, as an example. So the fact that he is instead suggesting, no, I'll rejoin my pack, what is basically a pack of bandits and killers, makes me frown and sigh. And I will write in my notes to justify this to myself because I live with a lot of guilt from the first 23 years of my life. Subject lied to me, cannot be trusted, therefore I was forced to take the merciful route.
Certainly makes sense. After all, with your medicine skill, there would be no treating this individual. A cursory examination at this moment you've already taken is that there's far more than just his face. You can see evidence on his chest, on his right arm, on his leg.
Now, I'm going to give you some medicine, Rolf, that's going to knock you out for a little while so that we can move on, and then when you wake up, you can rejoin your companions. I just want to know if there is anyone you know who isn't transformed like this who we need to pass a message on to as to your well-being? Or any belongings you need to pass on?
I don't know anymore. Liddy. He begins to weep, from the human eye at least.
Niddy.
Liddy, yes.
Niddy. Well, I'll do my best, and hopefully Heinrich will be able to connect the dots. So if you take this... I'll pour it into your mouth. Just don't spit it out. I know it's a bit sour.
The being looks at you, and it seems that your manner has at least won him over. He doesn't struggle as you give him this medicine. He chokes a little and says, "This heal? This heal? They always say you can't heal it, but this heals! This heals!"
It will just make you sleep.
He looks a bit confused, clearly having misunderstood what you meant. What does the substance actually do, Siegfrieda?
It will indeed make him sleep. While I don't have the exact list of tinctures, medicines, and potions in my inventory noted, I think it makes sense that I would have some kind of sedative made up of all kinds of herbs, and frankly, I'm just planning on overdosing him. I will ensure he's unconscious, and then I will cut into that bulbous throat of his, because whatever you are, biologically, cutting someone's throat open tends to do the job.
He looks confused. He slumps back and offers no resistance as you cut his throat. His blood leaks, slightly green-coloured as opposed to red, and he passes.
Despite my pragmatic approach to most things in life, I have enough superstition about me, even as an apprentice physician. I don't want to touch the blood of a mutant touched by chaos with my bare hands. I kick myself for it internally that I'm so coy around this part of a creature's physiology, but I can't bring myself to do it. So I nick the vein, slice through an artery, and step back as the blood flows, making my notes from a distance instead of pursuing any further anatomical study. At any rate, if Heinrich comes upon this body in a bit, I can't imagine he would be happy if I've cut it from bow to stern. So I will back off.
Kruger, while all this has been happening, you decided to investigate the coach area a bit more, see if you could find anything valuable. There are quite a few valuable things. The annoying thing is you're going to have to kind of get them on the wagon, and a lot of things are quite big, like, the spurs, the wagon wheels, if you were to remove them. It's a bit irritating. However, you do notice something that draws your attention, and that is, as the rain is beginning to clear it away, is there a blood trail? It's almost gone, but you think you suddenly notice, just as you are now left by yourself, there is a little bit of a blood trail leading back into the wood, but it's vanishing very quickly.
Well, that's interesting. Perhaps there was someone else here. I will begin to follow it with my bow at the ready, disappointed that there wasn't any valuables in there. I guess it must have been plundered before. Perhaps this person or thing, maybe it's them that took it. Yeah, that's what I tell myself as I move off into the woods following this track, not really being all that worried somehow.
Feel free to roll a little perception check. Let's see if you notice something extra here.
That is 3 success levels.
You begin following this trail again. It's very lucky that you've noticed it now, because already the road blood is gone. It's only because you can kind of still notice some of the blood in the grass, but that will be gone soon in this rain. But for the moment, you are able to follow it a little bit. You begin heading into the wood. You pause. You don't really want to keep going too far. After all, you'll then not be seeable from the road, and you don't want to suddenly be alone in a big wood by yourself. You do notice on the ground, though, that there is a bit of evidence of a couple more footprints. Again, starting to vanish in the mud, but some things did leave here, so maybe there were more than just these beings. Maybe they did rob the wagon successfully and left behind a few stragglers. But they start going further into the woods, and you do not want to randomly be following that sort of trail by yourself. But that's okay, because there's a little bush, and there's something there. You think that's where the blood goes. It goes to a bush, and that's not too far off the road. You're not going too far into the wood if you just investigate that.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Surely that'll be fine. I've looked around. There's no one here. They're long gone. I move towards it.
You do so, and you see a body, currently facing away from you, sprawled out on its front so you can't see its face. It's a person, a human, you think? You don't see any strange shapes underneath its clothing. It seems to be wearing a very nice travelling cloak, leather, and it's clutching something underneath. It's holding something underneath. What do you do?
I first inspect the body. Is it clearly deceased? I mean, is it pale and without life?
You can't tell from here. He's completely cloaked and hooded. You can't see his skin. He's not moving, though, and in fact, a crossbow bolt in the back. 2, by the looks of it.
Yeah, that'll do it. I put the bow down. I pull my dagger instead and begin approaching, just in case. There was something weird about that fellow earlier. Don't really know what we are dealing with here. Better be safe than sorry. But that looks like a very, very nice coat, and yeah, if anyone has money here, it'd be him.
You lean down. Do you turn him over?
Yes.
And as you do so, you see he's clutching something. A leather satchel. There must be something in there. And as you reach for the leather satchel, looking excited, you look at his face, and it's you. It's you. You're lying dead on the ground.
I stagger to my feet, and I just look at this scene with incredulity. That is impossible. I am curious, though. That thing, that satchel, it's important. It's mine. I mean, it's mine, right? I'm the one holding it. I should take it.
You reach down to take the satchel from this dead man's hands, his eyes looking back at you. Your eyes, your face, your nose. It's you! But obviously it's not you, you're still alive, and this person is dead.
Yeah, it's better to be alive than to be dead. Yeah, this is mine. I'll take this. And I begin trying to loosen his grip of the satchel so that I can grab it for myself. What I'm seeing here doesn't make any sense, but perhaps it's not real, perhaps it's just my eyes. I've seen strange things here. Perhaps there's magic about. But the satchel is real. I'll just take that and I'll get out of here.
You begin picking up the satchel, moving away from this body. Heinrich, you began to return to the wagon as the other two did their activities. You see the coachman, looking a bit anxious. The rain, thankfully, has finally begun to cease a little, and you can hear someone playing a lute from inside the wagon. The balding coachman leans forward. "Oh, hi there! So, what's the issue? What's happened?"
I don't want to freak the coachman out. I don't want to freak the passengers out, so I'm going to speak vaguely about it. Seems to be some kind of accident. Another coachman who lost control of his horse. Drinking a bit too much, maybe. The other two are dealing with the situation as best they can, but it looks like we won't be able to clear the road without a bit of assistance. Might we count on two young, strapping residents of the Empire?
They look at you with concern. Sure. Wait, hang on then. They begin moving the wagon forwards. Click, clock, click, clock. And so the whole thing moves and finally now can see the seat itself, at least a little bit. They kind of whistle a little. Aye, oh lad, no, we're gonna need far more horses. That's a whole overturned coach. Now, best we move on and we're going to report it to a road warden. Aye, that'd be the right thing to do. You hear from inside the wagon at the second stop. What is going... We've stopped again? My goodness, what is the... Go and check. Lydia, go check. And a maid pokes her head out looking confused. Sorry, sirs, why have we stopped again? Oh, goodness me, what's happened? Oh, dear.
I'm not going to miss an opportunity to put on the full deal here. I am attractive. I am not very charming, but I will swoon this maid if my life depends on it to get in with her betters. So I just full chivalrous. Nothing to worry about, young man. There was a problem on the road, and I'll doff my hat. Heinrich Schilf would never let such things get the better of him. We've solved it, and so long as our two gracious, wonderfully strong, attentive coachmen help, we should be able to have you and yours back on the road in no time at all.
Oh, wonderful. My lady, the gentleman outside says it's not a problem. Oh, does he now, really? Oh, good. Well, hurry up, then. Hurry up. My lady says, could you please be as quick as possible? The two coachmen grumble a little, and they look at you and say, look, mate, it's not that we don't want to do it. It's that we need... Okay, have you got 2 more horses? How much rope have you got on you? It's a bloody wagon.
Do they mean 2 horses in addition to the 2 that we have found? Like, they want 6 horses?
Yes. They want all their horses and 2 more, apparently. Maybe that's an overestimation. You think it's more the pulling up the wagon. They think it's going to need a lot more people. They're not entirely wrong. They don't look very strong, these individuals, and it is hard to pull up a wagon off the road. Maybe you could just move it out of the way.
In that case, I will make a small comment impugning their masculinity, probably with some choice rural epithets. But then there's no choice but to accede. I'm not ridiculous. Said, very well. You are unfortunately the experts, said in vocal finger quotes.
They nod grimly and begin discussing among themselves. Merely moving the wagon out of the way would be good enough. It's at that point that as you, Kruger, come back onto the road from the forest, you didn't want to stay there too long, holding your satchel, you'll be the first to hear the sound of horses. Several horses, quickly coming from a northerly direction.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this first part of the series, we are tackling Book 1, Enemy in Shadows. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Word Clock, Metatron Omega, Aegersonus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Ludwig Manford, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, Skaven are definitely not real.